do you explain? I mean, there are lots of different options right now. If I'm a filmmaker, for me distributing my stuff online, from going with custom flicks to green scene to a bunch of different, probably at least 10 sites that handle full-length films. How do you articulate the benefits of Jaman relative to everything else?
So it's non-exclusive, first of all. Nobody's sacrificing any other distribution channel by putting a film on Jaman. In fact, what they're doing is they're enhancing other distribution channels by putting a film on Jaman. You can say, hey, instead of passing out DVDs at film festivals, if somebody loads up a film on Jaman, they can easily send a URL to somebody and say, watch my film. And it shows up in high def. And if you have an AppleTV, sure, you can watch it on there too. But you have the advantage of having a curated cinematic kind of film available to you. And if somebody else is giving you certain advantages, or say there's a particular person who is a documentary distribution, where they do theatrical distribution of documentaries and they want to come do a deal with you, that's great. We would say, by all means, do the deal. If you get television rights for the film, by all means, do the television rights.
And you could take your film off Jaman if you needed to in order to do a television deal.
You don't have to. I mean, there's always a way. It's like leasing out real estate, where if you have a subtenant, that subtenant is part of your lend-lease program. If you were to sell the building, the tenant has an agreement with the landlord and goes into some other part.
But so are you saying, I mean, I know there are some distributors that get very dicey about, look, you need to take your movie off the internet if you want me to show it in theaters in, Portugal or wherever.
Right.
If I have a non-exclusive agreement with Jaman, can I cancel that at any moment? Or
no, it depends.
It's an agreement that says you have my film for a year or 2 years?
It's for a number of years, typically 7-ish years, 5 to 7 years. Because again, we put the time and effort to promote the film, and as the film over time becomes better known and the community writes blogs about it and writes blogs in the film, etc., it's quite likely that for some of these films the actual payback is going to be over a period of time. Of course, there'll be some hits that break away. There'll be the equivalent of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or whatever the case might be.
I mean, that's an interesting point, because I kind of do feel like internet distribution is waiting for its first big breakout hit. It's Napoleon Dynamite, it's Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Or, the Blair Witch Project, which was a breakout hit for all independent films. And oh, by the way, the filmmakers didn't make anything off of that, if any.
Do you think we'll see it in the next, in 2007, in 2008? Are you willing to make any predictions?
It depends on how much good film comes onto properties like Jaman, to be frank. It is true that less than 1% of all the films on the planet get mainstream US distribution. So there's not a shortage of content, but also because of digitization, cameras, computers that are digital, you can make fairly inexpensive films. Sometimes those films are of the highest quality, and it's not just the filmmaking. It has to be a plot, and it has to be storyline, or something someone is passionate about, where they want to change the world in some way. So it's likely to happen soon, is my feeling. I'd say 2008. How about that? I think 2007 feels sort of in the middle right now. But 2008 does feel like there'll be, and we've seen these already, by the way, on the snacking side. We have seen Lonely Girl on YouTube, and we have seen all these phenomenons on the snacking side.
Just nothing as a full-length feature yet.
Nothing as a full-length feature or as a short. Even a well-made short, when we see some of the diploma shorts coming out of film schools, some of them are fantastic. But they do need, again, that high def and the fidelity, and they need to be played back in an environment for which they were designed.
And talk about the filmmaker split. I mean, I think there might be other sites offering better filmmaker splits than Jaman, but how do you articulate the value of 30% to filmmakers, 70%?
It's not exclusive, and they should do business with those sites as well, because I don't think anybody's demanding, besides possibly a traditional distribution company, nobody's demanding an exclusive. And if they are demanding an exclusive, they should be able to give some revenues or a fair assurance of revenues in exchange. We feel this is the right kind of split to be able to put the effort that we put into properly staging the film, putting it up in our community property, building the right kind of, if you would, promotion around it. And that model works for us. But if somebody doesn't think that we're the appropriate site for it, they could obviously put it on a number of other sites as well.
What's the top, I mean, if you were to cite an example of the top download or the top rented film, I mean, how many downloads or rentals are we talking about at this point? Have you had someone hit, 10,000 downloads or rentals?
No, but thousands, yes. So thousands, yes, and evenly spread. And that's what we're finding, that these are starting to become thousands, and they will.
There isn't one breakout that you would say these guys have hit 5 or 10,000.
Not yet, but we can see that there's going to be some very strong plays. And remember that the site is 100 days old.
Yeah.
At this point, the site is 100 days old. We've just started our consumer and our exposure of what we built as a company. And as that continues to grow, you'll see more and more things happen. But I can see the day where something that's longer form doesn't need to be a feature. It could be a documentary. It could be a television episode from some part of the world, say from Scandinavia or whatever, takes off and becomes very popular. Look at reality television, right? Who could have thought reality television would be what it is today? And look at reality TV today.
What about, iTunes for a long time has kind of been making noise that they're going to open the doors to independent content producers. And that's something that I would maybe predict could happen by the end of 2007. How does that affect your business, given that iTunes really is the dominant marketplace for downloaded, for pay to download? They don't do rentals yet. But how does that affect you if they say tomorrow we're going to accept content from independent producers and maybe offer a similar split? Let's say the same split as you guys offer.
So I think it helps the marketplace. I frankly believe it helps the marketplace, and whether they offer more or less. The issue is, how do you create an identity for your piece of entertainment, whether it's a television series, a short, or a feature-length film? How do you identify it? How do you have an audience develop an interest in it, talk about it, share it with others, and be placed in a good place?
Well, what's the best example that you've seen so far of a Jaman filmmaker doing something? What you're talking about is getting the world to care about your movie. What's the best example you've seen?
I think it's the other way around. I think being in the right kind of place for your movie to be cared about. So there's nothing that prevents a filmmaker, and some of them have, putting their films on any kind of internet site. But they typically want to put their films with other kinds of films, or they want to put the work that they've created with other kinds of work like that, which is why film festivals work.
Well, then,
that when you go there, you're going to find a certain quality.
Okay, so I see what you're saying about Jaman sort of being that right place.
Being the destination, yeah.
What's an example of a filmmaker doing something interesting to sort of get the viewer to go? We talked a little earlier about some of the filmmakers that are out
Uzi
there.
at the Alamo. This is an independent film that was made and put on Jaman as part of a collection that we brought. It did okay in the film festival circuit and has done very well on Jaman, where the filmmaker has been able to, by messaging out to the Jaman community, talk to people about his film. And
what do you mean messaging out to the community?
He tells people about it, encourages them to watch the film. It's like somebody who is very passionate about their film that you meet at a film festival, and you get the feeling that they really care about it. So you go see it, you see, this person's really moved by it.
So is he using the site to kind of talk to Jaman members? How does that work?
Using the site to talk to other Jaman members, making sure that he interacts with people who speak about other kinds of films and shows them that he's got this film, and then they come see his film, etc. And it builds a community and starts the process of interest and discussion, and then people do care about it. So again, we haven't opened our doors that long ago. The R&D's been going on, the development's been going on, but we think this is just the beginning of what's going to happen. And I do believe that just as we first thought that there never would be video on the internet, a lot of people lost money in 99 and 2000 trying to build video properties, though it didn't work out. The plumbing wasn't there. In the same way, now you see video properties where people are snacking and there's hundreds of millions of videos being served. I think in the future you'll see stuff that is slightly longer form or long form that does better as the technology and the computing and various kinds of devices keep coming.
And also this connection to the TV I think is really important for long form content, because at least I find when I watch stuff on my laptop, if it is a full-length feature, I watch it in 10-minute segments, when I have time or I feel like goofing off, versus the TV really is the place to sit down and spend 2 hours.
Right, and that's precisely the case. And also, if you want to watch it, there's a social context we provide you with the Jaman in-film blogging, where you write a blog about the film in the film, and then there's a way to be able to share it. You share it with family or a friend, or you have a spouse over, or somebody, and you say, hey, you want to watch that? And you watch that together, and you start to get payback on the big investment you made in the plasma or the high-def screen that you bought.
Right.
And you're able to watch things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get. That's where we are today. But what's going to happen is, as we continue to build out a platform, as we continue to grow out a library, we had a fantastic Cannes Film Festival. We recognized one of the 60 Faces to Watch at Cannes. We did a number of very interesting deals that are starting to get digitized and announced in the times to come. And we'll have a fantastic fair for people to come to over the summertime as the property builds up. And again, it is about bringing those things that are hard to get to the world by using an absolute world-class platform, a lean in and socially interact with other people on the site, and lean back and watch the film And we believe we've kind of built the network of the future here in some ways.
What's your analysis, and maybe this is the last question for you, is what's your analysis of other content marketplaces that have been out there doing paid downloads, whether it's Clickstar, MovieLink, Cinema Now, Unbox? I mean, why haven't they been able to to gain momentum, and yet iTunes has really had all the momentum in terms of selling TV shows or selling full-length features?
I think Apple clearly benefits from the franchise they built through songs, through music on iTunes, and it's no surprise that they've done well. I think when I look at all the other properties that came before, some of them were built in a prior generation of competing technology, which it doesn't mean 20 years in our business, it means 18 months. So if you built the property 5 years ago or 10 years ago, as some of these have been built, we just kind of, didn't build them the right kind of way. Furthermore, I believe these properties have to uniquely combine the media enjoyment with the social interaction. Otherwise, it's very hard for non-mainstream media to make it big in this kind of environment. Apple does well because they have content that is already well known. And when you look at something that may not be as well known, without the social interaction, without the media piece coming in, we're a trusted network. Where if I give a film 5 stars, you give a film 5 stars as I gave it 5 stars, I go, oh, what else has he watched? Let me go try to find the films he gave 5 stars to, and it shows up on your profile, and I discover films, and the trusted network helps me enjoy the content in a different way. Unless that comes together, you're not really going to get, I think, the kind of volumes that we all desire. But it's heading in that way.
You didn't mention price, which is really interesting. I mean, every time I post about some content marketplace on my blog, I'll get comments saying, no one's going to pay $19.95 for the download version of something that you would pay $19.95 for on DVD.
Yeah, that's totally true. I mean, think about it. We price all films from Jaman at $1.99 to rent and at $4.99 to purchase, which frankly makes piracy look like a waste of time. I mean, if you think about it, there is a lot of downloading going on. It's happening in the pirate networks. People claim 30% of internet traffic is pirated video, one type or the other. It's probably true. But the point of that is that there is if you would, for people who are professionals or for whom there's, a desire to pay back into the community of independent or world filmmakers. If they're really moved by something and if it's convenient and not exorbitantly priced, they'd be willing to participate in it. There is a desire to take it from a strong, legitimate service that gives them that quality experience. So we believe we can do that for world cinema, for independent cinema, for media, television episodes, other kinds of things to come.
Well, so that makes me think of one very, very last question, which is, at some point, would you carry studio films, or do you think that the brand is always going to be about independent films? I mean, if someone from Disney or Universal or Warner Brothers says, hey, we love the service you guys have built, it's the best thing other than iTunes that we've seen, we'd like our movies to be there, would you do it, or does it dilute the brand?
We would go after films that were thoughtfully curated. So, for example, I personally enjoyed watching Little Miss Sunshine. It's a beautiful film. I enjoyed The Life of Others. It's a Sony Classics release. So if you think of the studios within the studios...
But Transformers, that wouldn't necessarily fit into the...
Not today, but as the property gets bigger, those things will fit as well. I think as long as, again, you have a trusted network where you know that if you're in the mood for action-adventure and it's going to be a relevant release that may not be in the theatrical window, but it's the destination to go, and your choice is you do DVD or you get it online with the community experience onto it, and a high definition that you can put on your plasma, it could be a viable alternative.
Okay, right. So you don't want to foreclose that.
I don't want to foreclose that, but I don't think it's in the cards. I think what we will be doing is we will be going and having interactions with television series. We'll be going and having interactions with films that are aligned with the spirit of Jaman, which is bringing high quality experiences to people. We'll be aligned with that, and in addition to that, we're bringing a lot of popular stuff onto Jaman. We're bringing in drive-through movies and other kinds of things onto Jaman because if you're in college, you're 21 years old and it's summertime, sometimes you don't want to see a heavy film called Afterlife. Maybe you want to see something very light.
Drive-in movies, you said?
Just something retro. Just a fun film, like a horror film, Beast of Blood Island or something like that. You're just in the mood for a drive-through movie, that's fine. The latest Bond film was great. I enjoyed watching it. It was really well made and did well, and your mileage may vary on some of the other summer blockbusters, but some of them are pretty good, and I'm surely going to be seeing them. But to answer your question, Lives of Others, great film. picked up in Tribeca, continued to do well, is a Stasi film, the East German Stasi film. Great film. We'd love to have that film on Jaman. That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, Little Miss Sunshine, perfect.
Yeah.
So many other quality films being produced. We'd love to have them, but they may do very well actually in our kind of environment, because they don't really need that $50-60 million marketing budget to get going in a community like ours, which is passionate about media, is passionate about world media, independent media, or media that is outside of the mainstream and the norm. And for that kind of environment, we might actually be able to work out the right partnership. Certainly, we'd like to. If somebody's reading this, we want to do it.
Right. Well, great. Thank you.
Cool.
Good talking with you.
Good. Nice talking to you as well, Scott.